All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Two Guys and a Mic. This is our midweek edition, and I'm one of your hosts, Big Sean.
What's going on, people? This is Ron Pierce, better known as RP.
All right. And today, we're going to talk about a few things. So we're going to preview the Cleveland Browns versus the Cincinnati Bengals matchup on Sunday. We're going to touch a little bit on the World Series, or as the baseball purists like to call it, the World Series between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays. And then the Ohio State Buckeyes will finally start play this coming Saturday. So we're all excited about that against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So those are pretty much be our topics for our midweek show. And we're going to go ahead and get things started. So RP, go ahead and lead it off, sir.
All right. So we're going to start, might as well jump right into the fire today. We're going to start with this matchup coming up on Sunday between the Browns and the Bengals. We all were, well, most of us were, I know Sean and I were, privy to that disaster of a football game that happened on Sunday. So as I kind of said before in one of our shows, from a loss like that going into the next week, generally Browns fans are a bit on the fence. And I think that that's what we've been hearing. That's what I've been seeing, like on Facebook. That's what I've been seeing, when I'm reading the articles, or like you said a little bit ago, listening to other shows. It's like everybody is kind of jumped off of whatever bandwagon, if you want to call it that. I just feel, if you're a Browns fan, I don't think you're a bandwagon fan. I just don't. It's because it's hard to be a Browns fan on a regular basis, Sunday to Sunday.
Exactly.
But
if you win it, you win it. Period.
The problem with, if you win it, you win it. The problem, though, with Browns fans is that we are hyper emotional and we're pretty irrational at times. So one of the things that when I wanted to do this show, I wanted to make sure that this show was at least semi-rational from a Browns fan perspective. And I only say semi-rational because if you guys listen to the show on Sunday night, I was at least a bit emotional. At least a bit emotional. But I don't I don't think I was as emotional as some of the fans that I'm in a few sports groups on Facebook and stuff. So some of these fans have been, they might need a little Ritalin or a little Haldol, something to, just tone them down a bit, just chill out a bit. So as we know, it was an ugly game. A lot of concerns coming out of that game, just I know we're 4-2, but there were some things that you saw on the field that you can't, close your eyes and act like didn't happen. And one of those things was, of course, the play of Baker Mayfield. That seemed to be the hot topic of the week. What do we do with this guy? Yada, yada, yada. But I'm going to start with going into this week against the Bengals.
The Bengals are what, 1-4-1?
Yeah, they're 1-4-1, and they're kind of getting worse as the season goes on. So it's actually pretty solid timing for us to have a game like we had on Sunday, for them to slip in here during this week. It's actually pretty good for us because we're playing a team that has a lot of issues, a team that's probably not as good as we are, at least not on paper, at least not across the board, better than we are at every position. However, I'm going to say before I get into it, one of Kevin Stefanski's goals for this week is to not let this be a trap game, because this could be a trap game.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Hey man, we've been there before.
Absolutely.
Going into Cincinnati when they were just downright horrible, and it's a division game and it's a rivalry game too.
Division game,
and people now have because the Bengals and Browns have been so bad, a lot of people kind of downplay that rivalry. As a matter of fact, I remember a couple of years ago when the Bengals were making a playoff run, and people were like, well, if we can't root for the Browns, we can root for the Bengals because they're from Ohio. And I'm like, oh no, the hell you can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Says,
Oh, man. Don't play that game with me. Don't play that
game. Just as much as I hate Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Just about as much.
AFC North, so, and they don't like us either. So, yeah, you could definitely go down there in Paul Brown Stadium in the jungle, and you can get caught slipping. And especially, and Joe Burrow is the type of quarterback where he's going to come at you. He's not going to lay down. Joe Mixon is not going to lay down. So we definitely have to be prepared and be on our P's and Q's going in this Sunday's matchup.
Absolutely. And that's why I say Kevin Stefanski's job this week. Kind of piggybacking on what you said on Sunday, you do have to forget at a certain point, you got to forget some of that stuff. You can't completely and totally carry it all over into this week. So he's got to get these guys ready to kind of rebound from last week and to get back to playing, the kind of ball that we've been playing in those 4 games prior to us getting shellacked last week in Pittsburgh. But my question for him, one of my concerns with him is I haven't seen the type of play calling that I've seen or the type of scheming that I've seen in at least 2 or 3 games. It just looks like a kind of vanilla game plan. And I
think Pittsburgh's defense has something to do with that too. I think they were coming so hard, and I think that they were mixing up schemes and mixing up coverages. And I think he just got out coached.
Well, he did get out coached, but what didn't help him, and this was the one. I guess people would call it an excuse, but this was the one. Like kind of, all right, I'll give you one on this one from me to the coaching staff. Whatever their game plan was, it was over with after the pick 6. Like
it was.
Whatever you thought you were gonna do or be able to do, you basically that pick 6, you basically just ripped that up and tossed it.
It sapped all the energy out of the team.
Took the energy out.
Odell said something like that. Not necessarily pertaining to the pick 6, but he said today during his press conference, he said all week, he said he was preaching that this is just not another game, and we need to have our intensity up. And he said on game day, Sunday morning, he said he didn't see it. He said there was no energy on the team at all. And that's probably why he was acting the way he was acting.
Because he told you, I already told y'all. I told y'all that this was going to happen. And if that's what he actually said during the week, my hat's off and to him for putting that out there, because apparently that ain't what the coach is talking about. Right. And then also, that kind of says something to the comments and the thoughts that OBJ is some super duper diva who only is concerned with himself. It seems like that's something of substance towards the team that he's getting or trying to keep the team on a level or raise them to a certain level.
Right. Here's something I don't understand about Cleveland fans. I remember, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but back when the Cavs were making their run in the 80s, the one thing that the fans always complained about was saying we had too many choir boys on the team, right? Same thing with the Browns. We got too many choir boys. We don't have any dogs. But when we get them, we run them out of town. One of the prime examples was Kellen Winslow Jr. All he did was go out there and put his body on the line and play hard every game. And because he said a couple of controversial things here and there, even going back to college, Cleveland fans never embraced him. To me, during that era, he was my favorite player.
Yeah.
Now he has some crazy stuff going on recently, so that notwithstanding. But as far as his play on the field, all he did was give his all. Same thing with Odell. He hasn't really done anything crazy since he's been here. Yeah, he showed a little bit of emotion on the sidelines, but then we always ask for guys. We're always like, where's the emotion? Where's the rah-rah guys? And then when you get it, you bash the guy and you want to run him out of town. And I don't understand that about our fans sometimes.
I mean, and I keep hearing this narrative that he's a bad, and it's coming from the fans, not from
his teammates,
not from the team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting from the fans that he's this awful guy It's awful, cancer in the locker room, et cetera, et cetera. And the truth is, from the Browns and from the Giants, Eli Manning doesn't play football anymore. He didn't have a reason to say that he's a good teammate. Yet Eli Manning said, "Oh, he's never had a problem with OBJ, like never."
Right.
Now, why would he say that? Because he could flat out just say, "No, man, we know we didn't really get along." Boom, boom, boom. If he wanted to, and Eli's an outspoken kind of guy like that. So
yeah,
you know, that's a false narrative that OBJ is a bad guy, and I agree. There's something about Cleveland where we want everybody to love Cleveland, and we want everybody to embrace Cleveland. So that's why I always say this: we love the hell out of mediocre ball players here.
You're right, man.
You
are absolutely right about that. I had a conversation with my dad the other day, man. He brought up Josh Cribbs. He's like, man, they should have let Josh do more and blah, 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 blah. I was like, Dad, you bringing up something from 4 or 5 years ago when the only thing that the Browns had was special teams. Our special teams, the only unit that kept us in any type of football game.
And Josh was a great
when Josh Cribbs was here.
For what he did, but he wasn't a quarterback.
He wasn't a wide receiver.
Wasn't a wide receiver like that. I mean, we saw him try to wildcat. Here's the problem: every time they ran a wildcat, he kept the ball. So
exactly,
the defenses knew what was getting ready to happen. So the wildcat didn't work as well.
And right, Josh Cribbs was just one of the best kickoff returners and punt returns in the history of the NFL. And there's nothing wrong with that. But because we had nothing else, we propped him up. Same thing with Phil Dawson. They were mad when whoever kicker we brought in wore number 4. And I'm like, really? Like, y'all are mad because he's wearing the other kicker's number? I was like, stop.
I thought they should have kept Phil Dawson. But
we should have.
That's a whole nother story. I get what you're saying, because it's not like, he was, when your kicker is a guy that you want to go to the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. If they retire Phil Dawson's number and put his number in the Ring of Honor, he will get an 80,000.
Everybody standing up.
Everybody will give him a standing ovation for the doggone kicker.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's how bad is America. That's how dysfunctional the Browns have been the last 20 years. When the best player on the team was the kick returner and the place kicker.
Not a quarterback. Not even a defensive player.
Not a running back, but the kickoff returner.
Not a specialty guy at all.
And the place kicker. The two best. Hold on, and the left guard. Don't forget Joe Thomas. So the left tackle, the place kicker, and the kick returner are the best 3 people on the team.
Damn near 11 years straight, the best player on the team was the left tackle, and that was it.
And that's ridiculous.
It was almost not close.
Right.
So we love mediocrity, and that's what we end up getting product-wise. But we don't know how to deal with guys that want to be different, or guys, like we barely, both times we had LeBron, we barely knew how to deal with LeBron.
True.
They didn't know how to deal with Kyrie. They didn't know how to deal with any other star, if you want to call him a star, we ever had. We just don't know how to.
Because we weren't used to it.
We don't know what to do with them. So the moment that it seems like they don't want to be here, like the second that it seems like they don't want to be here, we're already like, oh, well, F them then. And it could be some dumb Facebook rumor. But anyway, so my guy, Stefanski, he's got a few things on his plate. So I have missed that creativity that the offense was having. I haven't seen any jet sweeps or fake jet sweeps or any full rollouts. Nothing, no misdirections, no. They did go to a lot of screens last week. The problem was they were only to the tight
end. I didn't get that.
There was no screens to OBJ or to Jarvis. There was no attempt to get OBJ in space. These are things that, while we're 4-2, these things are problems. And I know if I notice them, guess what? So do everybody else. And we have to get back to what we do or what we can do well to offset and off balance the other teams' things that they do well. Mike Tomlin had no problem killing our run game and destroying what Baker likes to do most, which is roll out. All he did was push the pressure up the middle hard and bring guys off the edge. Baker had nowhere to go, and he was panicking every single solitary time. He just their team took away what we like to do best. They put their team in the best advantage. The Browns were doing that for at least 3 to 4 weeks. We did not do that against the Ravens in game 1. We did not do that against the Steelers in this last week's game. We had the pace set for us by them. Like, we have to start setting the pace, and you got to get more physical. You're gonna have to pump somebody in the mouth. I heard a phrase today that I really like. Instead of being the nail, man, you got to be the hammer.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of waiting around for somebody to punch you in the mouth, you better punch his ass first.
Yeah, so, one thing that's been exposed too is that the lack of playmakers on defense too, where they triple teamed Myles Garrett that whole game, and even the one sack that he did get, he fought through 3 people. Yeah, that's one of the most amazing sacks I've ever seen.
I couldn't believe that
3 or 4 people to get there.
I couldn't believe that Ben still had the ball. He went through the tackle in the guard, and he got chipped. And he almost didn't get him, and then he grabbed him and was still getting pushed from behind. I have no idea how he got that sack.
So Vernon and Richardson and those other guys, they're going to have to be a little bit more consistent. They flash at times, but with so much attention being drawn to Myles, somebody should be freed up. But then our linebackers, we don't have any pass rushing linebackers whatsoever. No, our linebackers actually do okay in coverage. But as far as getting to the, we don't have a Bud Dupree. We don't have a Devin Bush. Those guys that can do both. They can both cover and they can get after the quarterback. So we got some work to do in the off season, man. We got to get some playmakers on that defense.
And don't forget, we have the trade deadline is coming up. I don't know that we have a lot of value in terms of trades, but there could be some movement. The question is, what are you willing? Because where we do have value, where we do have value, do you want to lose that?
Right. I don't think we can't afford to give up any players, but as far as draft picks, whatever, fine. You want to give up 3rd, 4th, 5th round draft picks for a solid guy to come in here, then so be it. I'll do that.
Joku can go.
Oh yeah. He can go because he doesn't want to be here anyway.
He doesn't want to be here, but they'll have to give up Njoku and a pick to get a semi-playmaker on defense, like to get another safety or to get a linebacker or something like that.
That's perfectly fine with me.
The question becomes who, you know what I mean? But so Stefanski's got to, and I actually have a little bit of faith in the guy, regardless of me being a little bit frustrated with how what he said in the interview. I actually do have some faith. He's gonna have to change that BS stuff. That can't continue to exist at all.
Now he did mention.
Hold on one second.
No, go ahead.
I don't know what I'm talking about in that instance. You can't have a coach that suggests that divisional games are regular games. It's just a week-to-week thing. No, the hell they are not. Especially in a league like the NFL, where winning your division and competing in your division is what gets you to the playoffs. You are the AFC North champions. You could be looking at a couple of years ago, the team in the South was 7-9 or 6-8-1 one time.
Mm-hmm.
But they won their division and they ended up in the playoffs. So you want to play well within your division. Not to mention the AFC North has notoriously been one of the best divisions in football. They can
for the last 20 years.
Yeah, for almost the last 20-something years. So when you come out of the AFC North, You're battle tested. You ready to go to the Super Bowl. So it increases our chances of that type of thing occurring. So you can't have that type of ideology floating around the building and think that, guys are going to perform well against these guys. It's not going to happen because it's going to be tough to out-scheme Harbaugh. It's going to be tough to out-scheme Tomlin. So you're going to have to play hard and you're going to have to show up. So how do you do that when you're like, oh, it's just another game? No, the hell it's not. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent again.
Right. Now he did mention, I think it was on Monday or maybe the post-game press conference, the fans, they asked him about what's coming up next. And he said, yeah, we do have to focus on Cincinnati because it is a divisional game. I said, okay.
And that's good because it is a divisional game and you do have to shoot up for it.
Exactly.
Those could be, honestly, the only 2 wins we get in our division. Is this against, and I'm not, I ain't even trying to be funny. Looking at what I saw in the Steelers and looking at what I see in the Ravens, the Browns are kind of afraid of those dudes in the back of their head. Or at least we played it. So as soon as one thing goes wrong, we're kind of like,
I think we're more afraid of the Steelers than the Ravens. Normally the Ravens play pretty tough. Now we may lose in the end. Normally for whatever reason, we play those guys okay. It's the Steelers. Though that's who I think they're intimidated by.
Well, I couldn't tell watching that game on the first week.
Well, yeah. This year, yes, but last year we beat them in Baltimore, and then we played them tough, here, and lost that game kind of later on in the season.
But we played a pretty good game against the Steelers.
Steelers too.
In Pittsburgh, but it doesn't change how they approach those games for some reason.
That's true.
And that's where the problem is. So again, I think that Stefanski has got to go back to the run a lot more. And again,
we're going to talk about our keys to the game. So he's got to need to focus on the run.
Got to focus on the run a little bit more because one of my other concerns is Baker Mayfield. I don't trust Baker Mayfield. Here's the question. Which Baker Mayfield are we going to get? Are we going to get the awful Baker Mayfield that we saw last week? The awful Baker Mayfield that we saw in week 1? Or are we going to get the mediocre Baker Mayfield that we've seen the other games that we've played?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's the problem is the best we're getting out of Baker Mayfield right now, right in this moment, is mediocrity. He's a mediocre football player right now. Now, he is hurt, so I will give him that. His ribs have been bothering him, and they should have after him getting touched up like he did last week.
Really, last 2 weeks.
He got touched up the last 2 weeks, but, it's nothing worse than sore ribs the week after you hurt him and having somebody touch your ass up. And he was getting touched like they were lighting his ass up. So
and that's how I want our defense to get. I miss back in the 80s, early 90s, we had that type of defense where we were out for blood. Now, we may have given up a bunch of yards. Like Warren Moon and Esiason, they used to light us up. But somebody was coming out that game hurt. Either Ernest Givens, Tim McGee, Eddie Brown, somebody was getting hurt and coming out that game.
We had very skilled guys back then. We had guys that could lay wood. We had guys like Eric Turner, Felix, right? Those guys were great, hard-hitting football players. Clay Matthews, we had some Mike
Johnson,
Eddie Johnson. We had guys that were going to hit you in the mouth. Like, that was the whole purpose of them showing up today, was to punch you through your face guard, and get their forearm like right on the bridge of your nose.
And it was a different game back then too.
So, again, what Baker are we going to see? Because Baker against, I think when we played the Bengals last, he had his highest yardage, which is
Yeah.
He had the biggest yardage total, and he had the second highest QBR. His second highest at I think I wrote it down 110.6.
Okay.
And he 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Not awful, but again, very, very, it's mediocre. It's slightly above pedestrian, but it's mediocre.
But he made big plays too.
He made
a couple of big plays that helped us win.
Here's the difference. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say he had the big plays. Here was one of the biggest differences. It was his attitude. It was the way he played.
Right, exactly.
It looked, hell, he only threw for 219 yards, but I would have probably guessed he threw for 300.
Right.
Like the way he approached that game, he had this little bit of a chip, this little bit of an attitude, that little bit of a swag that that we talked about,
right.
And he played very, very well. But they really set up a game plan that was great for him. They let him roll out. They let him, Chubb was playing, so Chubb ran well. Now, again, this team is not the Bengals. I mean, it's not. They haven't gotten like so much better. They've actually started to regress a bit in their play, but they do have a little bit of tape on us, so it'll be interesting to see what adjustments they've made from what they've seen. But again, Baker, if the run game doesn't exist, Baker Mayfield, just like last week, has to make a play with his arm. And do I trust and do I believe that he can accomplish that? He's not throwing the ball other than those couple games against the 3 games he's played against really good defenses. His QBR, the highest QBR he's had is 72.7.
Right.
So thankfully, that ain't the case with the Bengals. They don't have a great or good defense. They can play good in spots though. And like we alluded to earlier, Joe Burrow, we just played the Colts a couple weeks ago, and Baker looked decent. This dude just threw for 313 yards against him, and 3 touchdowns.
Right.
No touchdowns. 313 yards against that really solid defense. So we have to stop Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's going to be an issue. We got to get in that guy's face. They got an awful offensive line, so that bodes well for our defense. But
right,
Baker's got to show up, man. It's no question.
The thing I just want to see, I want to see a smart Baker. If the play's not there, nothing wrong with throwing the ball away.
Throw the shit away, please.
I know we get frustrated when he takes the sack sometimes, but take the sack. Just don't turn the ball over.
There's some sacks to take, and then there's some sacks you can't take.
Right.
You know what my other problem with Baker is, and I'm glad you pointed that out because it did kind of lead me to that end. Baker sometimes takes sacks he doesn't have to take.
That's true.
He just takes it. So, you can see this guy coming. So either step up or move a little bit quicker or just get outside the tackle box and throw that thing all the way away. And you have time to do that. But he holds it just waiting. Also, you've got to stop premeditating everything that he does. That was also a problem against Pittsburgh because people were like, oh, he couldn't find nowhere to throw. Well, because where he wanted to throw, the defense was doing something totally different than what he expected. And he's just sitting on this one guy. He's not looking around to see where his other keys are.
And that's because he was panicking, doesn't trust the offensive line, and he trying to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. And that's his first read. Wherever the first read was, that's where he was going, and they were sitting on that. So let's go ahead and get to our
he's got to learn to stop doing that, man.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and get to our keys to the game against Cincinnati. So I don't have many. The first thing I just want to see is the Browns come out with some intensity because Pittsburgh was playing at a different speed last week, and we were in slow motion, like we were running in quicksand. So that's the first thing. We have to get our playmakers involved. Odell only getting 2 touches. Jarvis got what, like 3? Can't have that. You have to get them involved.
They got were like in the early part of the fourth quarter when Baker was out, like when the game was totally out of reach by then.
Right. get them some touches. Also, man, I think Kareem Hunt is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have his explosiveness at all. So I think a big key is going to be is getting Dearness Johnson in there and getting him some touches because what you don't want to do, especially with Chubb being hurt, you don't want to further injure Kareem Hunt either. So we're going to have to get Dearness Johnson some touches, and it goes to what you were saying. Like some of this is going to fall on Baker Mayfield this game. Because now the book is out on him now. So all Cincinnati is going to do is stack the box. And they're going to say, okay, Baker Mayfield, you have to beat us this game. So those are pretty much my keys. I think if the Browns bring the intensity, if they come out with a sense of urgency, I think we'll be okay. In the first, couple of drives in the first quarter, will tell me a lot about how that game is going to go. If they come out, they're lackluster, 2, 3 and outs in a row, Cincinnati's moving the ball, it's going to be a long Sunday afternoon down on the banks of the Ohio River. So I want them to come out with some intensity, a sense of urgency, because, coming off that loss in Pittsburgh, we still have a chance to turn this thing around and get some momentum going. So the next time we see those guys, maybe we'll have a little bit more confidence going into that game. So those are my keys.
Well, let's hope. What's your we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So you pretty much you pretty much took the bulk of my the things that I need to see or that I would like to see that I think we need to key in on during this game. Again, Kareem Hunt, he was limited in practice today with those. He's got injured ribs too.
Okay.
But to me, while I agree with what you're saying that he has to, we have to be careful with what we're doing with him. I think that he has to be, if by him practicing or being at least limited in practice, that means there's a good chance he's going to play. If you're going to be out there, man, he's going to have to be our bell cow. Like he's going to have to be the guy that, because what happens is Nick Chubb sets the tone for the run game. So it does allow those other guys to kind of come in there and dance around and do the things that they had done, Dearness Johnson and things like that you saw like, wow, this guy's getting out there, but he ain't did that since Chubb has been gone. So
right.
So Hunt has to run like he's the starter, not like he's the backup.
Well, at least get him in space too. Maybe some pitch outs. Something like that is to get him, a little bit of room to maneuver.
I totally agree. I think that what he did best in Kansas City was him versus a linebacker or whatever. Screen passes and just out in the flats. You don't see a lot of this anymore, but the NFL that we watched growing up and even into the 90s, you saw a lot of, I'm in here to help you block, and then I release out into the flat. That's a guaranteed 20 yards because you got people, a separation between the linebackers and the defensive backs and the defensive line. Now by the time they catch this guy, that's 7, 8, 9. I mean, Thurman Thomas made a living off of that kind of stuff.
He sure did. Yeah. Okay, people, I think we're having a few technical difficulties here. Looks like Ron is frozen, but I'll go ahead and I'll continue the discussion. So going into Cincinnati this week, I think the Browns will probably be favored by, let me check what the line is. I think it may be 6. Let me go ahead and check the line.
There we go.
Are you back?
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to do some filler.
No,
I see that you're back. All right.
It was seemed to be the feed actually. I probably need to go up and grab my kids' phones and get them off of it. Messing up my production right now. But yeah, I think that Hunt has to be the guy that steps in, and that falls onto Stefanski into his game planning, Alex Van Pelt's game planning. And it also falls into Baker Mayfield. Sometimes a couple of those screens were set up pretty nice. His throw on the screen was off.
Right.
You know, you have to throw it a certain kind of way to get the guy, whoever the receiver is, into the right space behind the blockers. And that's just a tough play against a team as smart as the Steelers. But I don't see that necessarily being the case against the Bengals. Kareem Hunt and the running game have to step up. And whatever way that is, whether it's pass catching or running, they need to be a key of the game. Also, OBJ, you know, our playmakers, that includes Jarvis as well. They gotta get off the snide. These guys, I saw a few plays where OBJ was wide the hell open, but Baker didn't make the throw, or he
didn't make the second read.
Yeah,
he didn't make his progressions.
So,
you know?
And not necessarily wide open, but you know, he had the space he needed. So again, a lot of this falls back on Baker, and my third key is Baker. Baker has to. He was mad. I saw he wasn't mad like talking all angry like he talked to Tony Grossi, but tell he was a little bit frustrated. He was like, I don't give a damn what nobody think about last week's game. You know, it's over with. I got to move past it. Blah 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 blah. So he, you know, hopefully maybe he's building up that chip that we say he needs.
Right. Yeah. I need Bake Show.
I need the Bake Show.
I need the Bake Show. That's what I need right now.
And if the offense isn't capable of figuring things out, my last key is the defense is going to have to make some plays, some turnovers. I mean, at one point we were leading the league in turnovers, so we're going to have to get back to that type of defense, that aggressiveness, and again, that offensive line is awful. Joe Burrow, has been sacked 24 times already. So, and countless hits. I think they just stopped counting how many times the dude just hit.
So Joe Woods needs to bring the house, man. Like, stop all this vanilla soft defense. Bring some exotic blitzes. Mix some stuff up. You know, let's get after this guy.
And don't give Joe Mixon an opportunity to get going, because Joe Mixon is one of those backs that can have three or four. He it's like James. What's the kid's name in Pittsburgh?
Connor.
What is it?
James Conner.
Connor. So
or John Connor. What's his name? That's a shame. I really don't care what his name is, to be honest with you.
He can't be like Connor, but he's like Connor rather, in that he'll go a couple games where he's kind of non-existent, and then all of a sudden hit you up for 130 yards.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So we can't have that happen. We have to key in on that guy. Because like I say, we can go into this game like they 1-4-1, and this should be a win for us type nonsense if we want to. And then we'll mess around and, you know, have our next frustrating Sunday evening conversation.
And if you think Cleveland was mad after the Pittsburgh loss, if we lose to Cincinnati this week, oh my God, I do not want to hear the radio talk come Sunday night, Monday morning, man.
Yeah, I damn sure don't want to hear it on Monday after people have opportunity to sit on it for a day.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Also, before we make I need to make one more comment today.
Yeah.
I was checking in on the progress of Teller, our guard, and he did not practice today. So
yeah, I saw that.
I don't know if that means he's not going to practice tomorrow or Friday, because Friday is usually the day that they can tell who's going to play on Sunday or not. I'm hoping that he gets,
Well, they said that he's really trying his best to get back. So if you got to take a day off today, fine, you know, get some treatment. And we need you on Sunday, big fella. Although Hubbard hasn't done, you know, a horrible job for the most part.
Too bad. Now, Hubbard hasn't done bad, but here's my thought process is you always want your your starters, first
Yeah,
of
you
all.
want your best in there.
Second of all, without Chubb running, if we have all of our horses out front, that could help with the blocking and the blocking scheme. So that's the hope, is that, having everybody out there playing at full strength. And that's the other key. I don't want to do it out there if he's not going to be at 100%. So
exactly.
Yeah, I damn sure don't want him out there if he's going to end up getting re-injured. So.
And I wish we could get a update on Chubb, because that's the one I'm most concerned with. When is he coming? We need him back as soon as possible.
Well, what's the protocol when they go on the IR? You got to be out at least 4 games.
Well, no, 3. Under the COVID protocols now, it's only 3.
Oh,
but they were saying 6.
Oh, they were saying 6. I thought. So is that what he's on now? He's on like a COVID, or is it an injury?
Yeah, because like just the IR period now, you put a guy on the IR, they only, because of COVID, you can only miss like a minimum of 3 games. But I guess you can come back sooner, because Cam Newton didn't miss 3 games.
But I don't know that they missed IR.
Yeah, they put him on the COVID IR.
You sure it's not 2 different ones?
It may be, but I thought that if you, whatever it is, it's like if you're on the IR, it used to be 8 games. It's only 3 now.
Yeah, it used to. It used to be if they put you on the IR, you wasn't never.
It was done. Right. But for a while it was like that PUP IR. It was like 8 games. I know this year for sure. They said it's only 3, and they said they had to do with the COVID protocols. But I know that Cam Newton only missed.
He only missed 2 games.
2 games? It was a 2?
Yeah. He played last week.
Yeah, he played last week, right. So I'm not sure how that works, but the sooner the better, but don't rush it back, Chubb. We want you to be 100%. But I'm really appreciating how special he really is.
Yeah, you can see the difference. You can see the difference. I mean, he runs, it's the way he runs, and it's his vision. Like, to me, his vision is like second to none.
It is.
I mean, that guy just sees those holes, and it's not, and we have a decent offensive line, so we've had some solid holes to run in. He hasn't had to make too many quick decisions, but he runs forward. And what I mean by that is he doesn't do a lot of dancing around. He doesn't do a lot of sideline to sideline running. This dude runs straight ahead. He sees that hole, he gets into it, even if it's like a little sliver, he doesn't care. He just ain't trying to lose no yards.
Exactly.
And it's that mentality, that workforce, that power running. He's a powerful runner and he's a fast runner. So once he gets through that line, once he's broken 2 or 3 of those tackles, he can outrun, a lot of guys in the defensive backfield. So that's like, you just underestimate that until you don't have that.
Yeah, man, we're on the cusp of doing something special here. We just have to put it all together and get that loser mentality out of that building, which I hope, and I think we're in the process of doing that. And I think we have to understand that when you've been dysfunctional for this long, everything doesn't just happen overnight. Later on in the season, we're going to lose another game that we have no business losing. We're going to probably get blown out and get another game, but we're probably also going to win a couple of games that we weren't predicted.
Well, supposedly we have one of the easier remaining schedules, supposedly, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, it's the NFL. When they say that, I don't trust it.
Yeah, you don't ever know what the hell that means, because a team can catch fire and figure out whatever's going on. Sometimes you think their season is over with, they bring in their backup quarterback, and this dude is just ablaze.
Exactly.
Wins games for them. I mean, think about at this same time last year, I don't think there was a person I was actually putting in bets that the Steelers might not win a game. Like, that's how bad they looked, and that's how awful their quarterback play was at that time. And this is a testament to how good Mike Tomlin, their coaching, is.
And you know what's funny?
Figured out a way for them cats to just win games.
You know what's funny? I thought that we were irrational, but all fans are irrational because if you listen to Pittsburgh sports radio, they're trying
Every
to
year.
run Mike Tomlin out of town.
Every year.
Every
I
year
knew
they're
what
going
you
to
were
run that
about
man
to
out of
say.
town.
Every stupid year, those dudes want to run him out of town. And I'm like, for what? All he does is embody everything that the Steelers have always been. All he does is end up, if not in first place, I mean, you're in first place every other year, beating out the Ravens, who have a really good team, and they're well coached too. So it's not like, this guy. It's not like he's Marvin Lewis, where you're 8-8 every year. No, the Steelers are legitimately no less than 10, 12 wins a lot of times.
Exactly.
And I'm not. And listen, I can't stand the damn Steelers, but I'm just being rational. I'm being honest right now. I always said it too. I used to tell Stover all the time, like, bro, I hope they do fire him, and if they do, I hope the Browns call his ass before he makes it out of Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
Just bring your ass on up this turnpike, homie.
Exactly. I just think we live in an age of instant gratification.
Oh, for
Everyone,
sure.
like we overanalyze every single game.
Look, everybody's an expert, by the way, too.
Right.
Including
us. I'm an expert. You're an expert.
For sure.
Supposedly. But
look, I look at being an expert in sports just like being a weatherman.
Exactly.
Shout out to all the weathermen out there.
Right. It's tough being a weatherman in the Midwest, so.
Oh, it's tough delivering that message.
Yeah, exactly.
It's tough telling people, hey, I don't know if y'all bought salt or not, but you probably bought salt. Because that lake effect is on the way, player.
And then one quick note too, Antonio Brown, I heard today, is coming off suspension in 2 weeks, and that Seattle is looking at picking him up. If Seattle gets Antonio Brown, they're going to win a Super Bowl.
Well, I don't even know that they need Antonio Brown.
They don't.
I mean, my goodness, have you?
They don't.
This kid, DK Metcalf, who I've always liked. I've always liked this kid. And I have to be honest with you, I did not know a lot about him because it's not like they show a bunch of Ole Miss games.
Right.
But one of my sorority sisters, Tierra Metcalf, that's her nephew.
Okay.
And we were together out in Vegas, and she kept saying, yo, my nephew played ball for Ole Miss. And I'm like, well, what's his name? Who is it? And, I'm thinking maybe it's just a guy on the team. And that's still not a bad thing. But, I'm like, oh, I'm going to look him up. I'm going to check him out, blah, blah, blah. Man, listen. I was like, wait, this dude ain't some regular player. This dude is special. Like, and we throw that word special around a lot.
Right.
But I kept saying, I said, man, if this dude, like, he can run routes, he can, he's fast, he's strong.
Physical, man, just a specimen.
Yeah, so I was like, man, if he can maintain this, and I asked her, I was like, yo, how is he personality-wise? And she's like, he's humble. His dad played in the NFL, so he keep him grinding. So I'm like, man, if he can maintain a good, like, working attitude, he's going to be incredible. And I think sometimes you also have to have that luck of where you go out of the draft. And he went to one of the best places to go, a place that needed a wide receiver, but also a place that had a great quarterback.
And a great coach.
And an awesome coach. Like, offensively, Pete Carroll's an awesome coach. So they just
and can you imagine you putting AB in there? AB is going to come in hungry. Because AB is a Hall of Famer. I don't know if he'll get in the Hall of Fame because of all of the outside stuff. But AB has had a Hall of Fame career, even with all the mess that is going on. He hasn't really played the last 2 years. You put him in there with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. You give Russell Wilson another. Russell Wilson is great without weapons.
Yeah.
And now you're giving him an arsenal out there. And I think Seattle will make a run if they go out and get AB.
Well, I think that's in a bubble though. Like, and here's my one little issue there. You got something really, really good going on in Seattle. You have a great, the atmosphere there is really good. You know, Russell Wilson, if he's your leader, trust me, that team is just chugging along. Everybody's getting along. Everything is not like it's perfect, but you know what I mean. Like,
right.
He's the guy that dictates the pace there. How long before AB? And now here's the AB versus OBJ difference. Nobody wants to be bothered with AB in the locker room. And this is even going back to when he was actually only halfway crazy acting. Releasing
halfway crazy, huh?
releasing the video, going live while Tomlin is in that locker room. I mean, and that was when nobody was really on his case about being a nutcase.
Right.
Now, after all of this stuff is built up, after that awful rap song and video that he made, like now you're bringing that energy. And is he going to be Antonio Brown or is he going to be AB? And why would you want that level of disruption when you are on, I think Seattle's 5-0. Do you want that disruption in 2 weeks if you're 7-0, 8-0?
Yeah, and you know what, too? And I didn't think about this. You know, they signed Josh Gordon, too.
He did.
They're just waiting for him to clear. And how Josh Gordon still has any lifelines left, I don't get it. That dude has been suspended like 18 times, like literally, and he still has a chance to get reinstated. I don't get it.
Now he's in a state where smoking weed is legal.
Man, that dude was on more than weed. He admitted as much. But
it is what it is. But Josh ain't a cancer. He's just a cancer.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not a cancer.
Josh is just a cancer to himself. Like adding him to the team won't necessarily hurt the morale. Adding a guy like AB, it could jack up the momentum that you've gotten right now.
Now they were saying
in terms of in the locker room, especially if things don't go the way he wants it to go.
Right. Now they say AB didn't act up too much in New England. It's just New England cut him because of some pending cases that.
Listen, to say that he didn't act up.
Well, he wasn't there long enough.
Those 2 weeks that he was there, he was there 2 weeks, and one of the things that he did while he was there was send threatening text messages to one of the people and to one of the ladies that had the case.
He sure did. He did. I forgot about that.
Again. He was there 2 weeks. That's what happened in 2 weeks. Yikes. They had to cut bait. So, I mean, I don't think that Seattle will have a problem cutting bait with him. The thing I'm saying is you want to invite that into your
He really hasn't been the same since that Vontaze Burfict hit. And that was what, 3 years ago?
Look, that's
4 years ago.
It could be setting in on him as much as it's setting in on some of these other guys that have retired and stuff. So you never know.
You don't.
And
well, you know what? As a player, as just a pure sports fan, I like watching Antonio Brown play.
I've always liked watching him play. Just like I like LeBron, watching LeBron play. Some people you enjoy watching like that.
Yeah, I just hope that, first of all, that if he does have some issues going on with CTE or anything like that, that he gets healthy. And we'll see if he comes back. And if he does, we'll see how it works out. So we hit our points on Cincinnati. Are we going to make our picks now, or do you want to wait till we do our NFL picks?
We'll wait. We generally wait till we do our picks.
Okay.
So we'll move on. We'll get past our Browns segment and move right into our next one, which is the World Series. Baseball is finally, it's probably not finally, but baseball is the only sport right now that has its championship happening as it should happen in the time frame.
Right.
Here in October, everybody knows October is baseball. Is almost exclusively baseball until football started taking over the middle of the week. You know, with
You know what's
Thursday
crazy?
night games and stuff like that.
It used to be that the NFL, all the sports leagues had respect for
Yeah.
another league championship series. So the NFL would be like, okay, Thursday night, if a World Series game was going on, they would not have a Thursday night game out of respect. The NFL is so arrogant now; they're like, screw you. You're
Right.
gonna get better ratings than your championship game, and they do. It
Well,
could be
they
the
do.
Jaguars and the Titans on a Thursday night game, and they'll get better ratings than the World Series will.
Here's the problem with that, though, Sean. The bulk of people that are fans of sports in general, I'd say 70% of the people would say, when you ask them about baseball, what's the first thing they're gonna say? It's boring.
Yeah.
So people don't want to sit and watch. I mean, you know just as well as I know, a baseball game could be 2 hours or it could be 13.
Yeah, exactly.
It really no, because it's the only game that's played pretty much where there's no clock.
No time limit. Nope.
But
and baseball does a horrible job of, they don't market their athletes well.
and they got some great athletes.
Yeah, they do. They have great personalities. Because, as a matter of fact, people say, people always talk about football players being crazy, basketball players being, whatever. But true sports enthusiasts always say that baseball players are the craziest of all of them, and you have to be to play 162 games. That's the length of a pregnancy.
In the summertime, too.
In the summertime. So you have to be a little off. And you hear stories about how, after games, it's a bucket of beer and fried chicken in the clubhouse.
We all know that sometimes it ain't after the game.
Right. Right. They're in there gambling, playing spades and whatever.
Sometimes it's right as the game is happening. You supposed to be in the bullpen and you in the back smashing KFC and Popeye.
Right. So baseball has some great personalities. Lindor, Tatis Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Really all of, like, a bunch of the Padres show a lot of emotion. Those guys are young and hungry. The Dodgers got guys, but you don't know who these guys are. I mean, it used to be a time where I could name you almost every player on every roster in Major League Baseball. At this point, maybe 3 or 4 teams I'm familiar with, but the other, 28? I really can't tell you who's on that team because I'm not engaged like I used to be. I don't have the time anymore to be engaged like that. But they don't market these guys. You don't see these guys in commercials. Or if you do, you're like, well, who was that? Yeah, you don't know who they are.
I mean, I see Bryce Harper, and I think he was in a Foot Locker commercial or something like that. So they have guys that they do, or that I'm sure they probably do their own marketing. But, Major League Baseball itself should do more pushing of the marketing of these guys. Like, the NBA doesn't have to do that, but again, the NBA is that one league where some of these guys' faces, whether you know their names or not.
Well, yeah. And then too, like, Major League Baseball does not allow you to, like, show highlights or anything without it being licensed from Major League Baseball. So they control everything. Where as far as the NBA, NFL, it's kind of like freelance about who can, show clips and do whatever. So then there's another what you want to call it, hindrance to marketing their players.
That's why I say that Major League Baseball needs to do more instead of, and this was our argument about baseball in general. Baseball is just run differently because it's considered this different entity of, it's so pure and it's so this, it's so American, it's so blah, blah. And at some point, that hoity-toityness gets in their own way. I mean, baseball is a multi-billion-dollar sport, but it could be even more of a multi-billion-dollar sport if they relent it in some ways and allowed their guys to get out here and be promoted properly. Not just for all-star games, and not just for hoping that the Dodgers and the Yankees or the Red Sox and the popular teams make it. You have to have better marketability all the way across, because baseball is actually probably one of the more parity sports, where anybody from Cleveland to Kansas City to Tampa to Miami to St. Louis, any of those teams could win the World Series. Any of those teams have a shot to win the World Series.
And then baseball, right. And then baseball, they'll do something stupid like put their playoff game on TBS. Why? I don't know where TBS is on my cable lineup. And you don't think of, when you think of sports in the modern sense, you don't think of TBS or FS1. Those games should be either on ESPN.
TBS carries NBA games, and they also carry some NCAA games.
Well, no, TNT carries NBA, not the TBS. Well, TBS does it now within a package for the NCAA. That's a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? So the NCAA, you got so many games going on at one time. That's just one vessel that they use to bring you the game, but their main carrier is still CBS. You see what I'm saying? Where you can't have the main carrier TBS because nobody's gonna look. You have to go search for it. I don't know what channel TBS is on my cable. I always find it on accident when I'm just flipping. That should be so their playoff game should be on a major network, either be ESPN or Fox, ABC, something like that. But I think Turner just ponied up a lot of money to get it, but I think that hurts their ratings. The ratings are already bad anyway. And you put a game on TBS, nobody's going to look for that unless your team is playing and you know where to find the game. So baseball's become completely regional. It's just become a completely regional sport right now.
There's just so many other ways to watch the games anymore. You don't just have to watch them on the specific networks either.
That's true.
I know a lot of people don't always like Joe Buck. These guys, I know guys that killed Joe Buck.
I don't understand why. Like, I don't have a beef.
I don't think he's that bad at all, especially in baseball. I think he's great for baseball. And I don't think he's that bad in the NFL. I think Troy is a great commentator too, but
he is.
It's just a lot of other avenues that you can pursue that in. So
that's true, but the young generations are the ones that consume it like that in different areas, and they don't watch baseball. So like if you're an old school person,
you gotta like it to watch it. And
yeah. So like if you're old school, grew up watching baseball, you're that older generation, you want to be able to turn on ABC, NBC, or whatever and catch the game. You know what I'm saying? So now the millennials and the younger generation, yeah, they find different ways to consume media, but they don't like baseball at all.
Yeah, baseball is not
any youngins that like baseball.
However,
except for the ones that play it.
I've always been a fan of baseball. Even before I played it, I remember the old stadium and stuff like that. So I've always at least had a remote.
Grew up differently though, man. We grew up playing sandlot baseball. Remember, we had to go find. It was one guy that had a bat, so we had to go get him. He had to play. None of us had gloves. Maybe like 3 of us had baseball gloves, and we used a tennis ball or a rubber ball because we couldn't use a real ball because nobody had a glove.
We had the rubber ball. It was on the pop.
Right, and Chris would always hit the ball in the creek, in the woods, never to be seen again. It never failed. So we hated when Chris came out to play, or Marcus. One of them was going to hit the ball in the creek, and that game over.
Never to be seen again. Sometimes we play with a racquetball. I don't even know where we got those from, but I'm sure somebody's dad was pretty pissed off to find out that the field was littered with blue racquetballs.
Well, we a little bit more creative back then, man. We made basketball hoops out of cable wire and phone wire. With a tennis.
we cannot get off onto that tangent because
I know, man.
We're actually doing the damn stuff. So
People cussing us out. You messing up my cable because we
all the cable,
hit
all
the
the
wire.
it was,
Right.
look, and we were suburban kids. That's the crazier part. So here we are in October, late October, mid-October, however you want to look at it. And of course, that means World Series baseball. So the Dodgers and the Tampa Rays are in the World Series. We picked our playoff picks earlier when they were going on about a week or so ago. I picked the Dodgers and the Rays to make it to the World Series. Sean picked the Braves and the Rays to make it to the World Series.
Right.
I was right. Surprise. And
you know what?
Last night was
Right.
game one. It was actually a pretty good game. Again, I don't know if anybody may have watched. I watched the majority of the game, but it was actually a really good game. Seemed like the Dodgers, man, their bats were ablaze last night. So they took
And
the
they
one.
played small ball too. That's what I was impressed with. I haven't seen it done still. I don't know how long.
Small ball, when you have the ability to play small ball, when you have the ability to outslug the other team, that's just good baseball. That right there is just because you understand. And Sean and I have talked about this on a bunch of our other shows. Baseball in the playoffs, it's almost all about small ball. It's just about getting guys over. It's just about kind of manufacturing runs because you're seeing the best pitchers. Usually you're playing against the best defenders. So you have to just manufacture those runs and put pressure on those defenses and on those pitchers. And you saw a little bit of that. And you also saw the long ball being stroked yesterday. They were stroking. But and you know, speaking of one of those better pitchers, yesterday Clayton Kershaw started game one for the Dodgers, and you know we're talking about probably one of the best pitchers that we've seen in this particular generation of baseball.
Regular season pitchers.
And that's the other problem is that he tends to lead all of those accolades. He's won the Cy Young 3 times. I think he's won the MVP twice. I mean, this dude is a very decorated pitcher, but he tends to leave all those trophies and all those accomplishments at game 182 because he gets into the playoff and I mean he stinks up the entire place. But he pitched last night and he pitched
well,
relatively well. I think he went 6 innings. He had about 8 strikeouts. You know, only gave up 2 hits. So he looked like Kershaw. He actually got himself out of a jam early on. I think it was in the first inning. He kind of ran into a wall, and it could have got ugly for him, but he stuck it out. He did well, and I think Dave Roberts just went and got him out of the game before it got ridiculous, and he started kind of losing confidence. One thing about baseball is it's a very superstitious game, so they want to, you know, I don't know that Kershaw was ready to come out of the game per se, but I think it was good for his psyche to come out of a World Series game where he generally hasn't pitched well.
Right. I agree.
And have that feeling of, you know, I pitched a pretty good, I had a pretty good outing, but his team did just as much. His offense did just as much to give him that feeling. It wasn't tight. The game was almost never tight. I think they were up 2-1 at one point or 2-0, and then the Rays hit a home run. I think maybe bottom of fourth or the fifth inning, and so it got kind of tight. But right after that, the Dodgers came right back. It was up
the 5th inning,
4-1.
So Kershaw he pitched 6 innings.
Mm-hmm.
He gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk. And he had 8 strikeouts. So he pitched well yesterday. So
solid.
one thing we didn't do We didn't get a chance to make our prediction for the series. So even though the Dodgers are up 1-0, we still need to make a prediction. So I'm going to stick with Tampa. I think Tampa will find a way to pull this World Series out because I just don't trust the Dodgers. They haven't won a World Series since '88.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they're due, um, and this really just me being a hater, I don't want them getting 2 championships in 1 year. Because when the
Well,
Indians to win Cleveland, because when we had our chance to have 2 championships in 1 year,
16, man, we were
16, we didn't get it.
rain delay away.
Rain delay away, and I don't want the Dodgers to get it. But no, but seriously though, I just think Tampa Bay will. They're a scrappy bunch, well managed, and I think that they will find a way to pull out the World Series.
The Rays are definitely well managed. Very, very, very scrappy, talented baseball team. These guys can just play baseball. They're good baseball players. Solid all the way around the horn, defensively. And all that said, I think that the Dodgers, I think they're just due. I think that, of course, I would have picked the Dodgers anyway. I put it in my head because I realized that we didn't pick. But I like the Dodgers team. I like Dave Roberts, man. He's a very smart manager. Again, nothing against the Rays manager, but little stuff like taking Kershaw out, little stuff like, like that can honestly be the difference between winning and losing. That's just good managing. So I'm rolling with the Dodgers.
Okay.
I think the MVP is probably going to be Mookie Betts.
Man, Mookie Betts is incredible.
This dude is
incredible ball player.
Again, that's another guy. Mookie's another guy that should be getting more pushed out front. If you're a major league,
he should be one of the faces of the league right now.
He should be. He's one of the best players in the league. He's a 5'2" guy. He can do everything. It's almost nothing that dude can't do on the baseball field. And he's young. And he was one of the main reasons why the Red Sox won their World Series back in 2018. So, and here he is back on this stage and actually still being a problem, being one of the catalysts of that team. Guy that has got a uniform on or a shell of himself, or whatever, if you want to call it that. This dude is still a very viable player to whatever end that trying to win. He's a viable player to end.
All right. So
tonight actually should have just started.
They haven't started yet. It's about to, probably in about 5 minutes. They're still doing a pregame.
Okay, so yeah, they're on tonight again. You got Tony Gonsolin that's pitching against Blake Snell. Blake Snell is not a I won't say he's a bad pitcher, but I'll just say he's got a strikeout to walk ratio over 2. That's all right.
Yeah, he hasn't been the same. He won the Cy Young in 2018, but hasn't really been the same since. So
yeah, he hasn't quite been, that guy. And again, that's postseason too. So sometimes postseason brings out the best in people, like Reggie Jackson or guys like Derek Jeter, and then guys like Mookie.
Why do you do that? You just bring up Jeter just to trigger me. You had to throw him. You know what? We're not going there. We're not going there. That's not the purpose of our podcast today. But I just saw you stuck that in there for Reggie Jackson.
Reggie, am I lying?
No, Derek Jeter was a great postseason player. I would give him credit for that.
Yeah, October roll around. Some people have it, and then there's some people who don't. Kershaw has traditionally not been that guy.
The whole Cleveland Indians lineup.
pick one, and none of
All
them
of
have been
Right.
pick one, and none of them have done well. But that's it's all good. Game 2 again is tonight. Like to see how that is going to play out.
Yeah.
When we get
And
done
they have
here.
officially started. So
when I get done here, I'm probably gonna click that thing on. I would have it on right now, but I don't have access to my computer. That's all good. So with the Major League Baseball World Series segment kind of out of the way, we're gonna move into one of my favorite segments that we've had all year. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy.
the Ohio State Buckeyes, baby. Let's go.
Oh boy.
Let's go.
So here in the state of Ohio, there's a few things that are almost just expected. We expected to get cold in December, January, February. We expect it to be cold all throughout the state. No, everybody doesn't get the same amount of snow. However, we all get cold. The other thing that we expect every single year is Ohio State Buckeyes football to bring some level of joy throughout those terrible winter months.
Hey, you sound like you're narrating a Christmas story or something, man. Those terrible winter months. But behold,
those
Ohio State football swooped
winter
in.
months aren't fun us now.
Right.
So I'm excited, as you guys can tell. That's why I'm geared up in my Ohio State outfit. For those of you who will watch the show, for those of you who are just gonna listen, I got on Ohio State, top to bottom. So this Saturday, I was so excited about this. I think I talked about it in like one of the shows last week, and I was trying to make it be last Saturday that the game happened. So this Saturday,
bit early,
October 24th at 12 noon, down in the chute, Ohio State takes on a Nebraska team that we traditionally kick the Cornhuskers out of. And that's the same expectation for this weekend.
Yes, we are favored by 26.
Yeah, listen, when the line opens up at 21 and a half, it generally takes an act of God to change that lower than that. So the expectation from everybody is that we will win this game. Ohio State is loaded, per usual. We're always a pretty loaded. We don't always. People hate us because we're always there, or we're always very, very loaded. We don't always win the games.
That's only part of the reason why they hate us.
But Ohio State is always like that caveat. When the Browns are awful, we know that we can watch some Ohio State.
They'll fall back on Ohio State.
And
the Rays just went deep. Home run for who was this character? Brandon Lowe. So it was 1-0.
He jumped out early, like they should.
First inning. Yep.
Jumped
Sorry
out
about
early.
the interruption.
No, you're good. So Ohio State is loaded. That's not a surprise. Not at all. We have a really good quarterback in Justin Fields. We have a great kid on the outside, and Chris Olave.
Yeah, good to see Olave back, man.
Yeah, because the season that he had last season, I thought I had to look to make sure he wasn't, a junior, because I was like, man, that dude ain't coming back.
Right.
You know what I mean? He had a great season last year. I think he had 13 touchdowns or 12 touchdowns last season. And that's one of the highest touchdowns totals that we've had ever in Ohio State. Because, again, you usually only play 12 games. So for this dude to have 12 touchdowns, that's pretty solid. And it's a testament to how good he actually is. But we had something interesting happen for those of you who don't know, Ohio State football this is just their first week, which is why we're so excited and so stoked. I know some other schools have already started. I believe some teams are already like 2 or 3-0 at this point.
More than that,
yeah, probably more than that. But I have listen. Really, college football doesn't matter to me unless Ohio State.
Yeah, man, this season has been so weird that I haven't really.
Yeah.
It's hard to get into it.
I watched a couple, but
I watched mostly the SEC so far.
Yeah,
but it's just ragtag.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get into it, so I'm hoping that this will change it.
Yeah,
but Ohio State postponed their season due to the COVID situation, and not Ohio State, but the Big Ten, should I say, postponed the season for their teams due to the COVID, and it made some guys decide that maybe they weren't going to play. They decided to opt out. But when the Big Ten decided to schedule games and to figure out what would put whatever protocol in place, we were able to get a couple of those guys back. Wyatt Davis, our offensive lineman, and one of the better cornerbacks in college football, Shaun Wade. Both had decided to go and just prepare themselves for the draft, especially if we weren't going to play any football, but those guys are back. So we got players all over the field that can cause and that will be problems. Shaun Wade, I think last year in this particular game, had 3 picks.
Right.
Again, having these guys back, not just Shaun Wade and Wyatt Davis, but just having Ohio State back, our running back core is really good. We got Master Teague, and we also got this kid from Oklahoma, Trey Sermon is his name. I think he's going to be the guy who's starting.
Yeah, he's a graduate player, graduate transfer.
Yep.
Well, this seemed like he was at Oklahoma for 16 years.
Listen, I feel like he played with Baker. I feel like he played with Kyler.
Right.
you know what I'm saying? He played with all
Jalen Hurts. Yeah, he played with all.
And Jalen Hurts. So, I mean, but from what I've seen of that kid, because I didn't know a whole heck of a lot about him, so I looked him up, and from what I've seen of him, he's a pretty solid runner. He runs big. He's not really a big guy. He's 6 foot, like 225, that's not small, but he's not a massive, like a Derrick Henry type guy, but he runs big like a Derrick Henry. He's not fast, he's shifty, but I'm expecting big things out of him. I love Master Teague III. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys put out there. On the Nebraska side of the ball, I mean, Nebraska's not a great team, and as good as they may be, they don't have the firepower really to stand up to Ohio State. The only thing that these guys have to kind of rest their cap on is the potential that Ohio State might not be up to speed quite yet.
Yeah. And I was going to mention that, man, because you've seen a lot of upsets in college football already this year. Right. LSU has 2 bad losses. And we have to remember that these are just kids. And they're probably used to a routine, and their routine has really been disrupted. You got games being postponed. You don't know if you're going to play week to week. It's just really ragtag. And I blame the NCAA because they didn't show any leadership. Now, I know that each conference has a level of autonomy, but still you should have had a set protocol for each conference that decided that they were going to play. It's almost like how the United States is run, kind of in a sense, where you have the federal government, but each individual state is still kind of allowed to kind of do what it wants to do as long as they don't do anything that's unconstitutional. Right. And I think that's what college football, so how are you going to decide who gets into the college playoff? Because you didn't have any out of conference games at all this year. And Look at Clemson. They get to play the weakest conference in college football. Like Clemson reminds me, this is for our Cleveland audience here. That's like St. Ignatius being in the Senate League, pretty
Yeah.
much. They're just going to run through everybody with no type of opposition whatsoever. So
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see how they decide. Somebody's going to be pissed off at the end of the season because you're going to have
when we have a full season, when
yeah,
everybody plays everybody, we always got pissed off people. Like everybody, the one thing about college football is that you're almost never, ever, ever going to get everybody to agree with whoever's supposed to be in the playoffs. It's only been like once or twice that everybody just agreed. I think the first year that they had the playoff was one of the few times that everybody agreed with who belonged in it.
But that's how they want it, though. They want that controversy because it keeps people talking.
The controversy, and they do. I mean, honestly, they do. But before the playoff, guess what? People were complaining about who was in the national championship. Like, people are just going to complain.
And just think about how it was like 20 years ago, where you didn't have the playoff system, and it just went based on the like the AP and the coaches poll back in the day. If you want to go back 30, 40 years, you would have it where the two top teams weren't even playing each other in the bowl game. And it just came down to how well they performed.
You had to sit
in their various bowl game, right? It all just came down to somebody's personal opinion.
And whenever the poll came out, like, I remember those years where you had two national championships. I think that year was Georgia Tech and Michigan, I think.
Or Colorado or somebody like that.
Colorado, yeah. I think it might have been Colorado and maybe Michigan. But you saw that more because you got this coaches poll and you got the AP poll. All of that stuff, I thought, even as a kid, I thought that was stupid. I thought that it didn't serve well. And they did change it. They started changing it. And then, I thought that it should have been a playoff system a long time ago. I still think that it should be a bigger playoff system.
How many teams? I think 8 is enough. You don't want to get too crazy.
8 teams.
I think 8 is probably enough.
8 teams
and then
you can
eliminate some of these bowl games, man. That may be the one thing that may come out of COVID, and this is no disrespect to anybody that's been affected by the virus, but maybe we can eliminate some of these doggone bowl games. Like, we don't need the Pinstripe Bowl. We don't need the Popeyes chicken. But when I saw that, man, the Popeyes behind or something like that, it's just going too far. It is. Like, nobody.
Like, man, what?
You got teams now go under 500 that are 5 and 6 going to bowl games. So you're rewarding mediocrity right now.
The way we grew up, when we grew up playing on New Year's Day, was reserved for the best teams in the country. Now anybody play on damn New Year's Day.
You got some the Tax Slayer Bowl and all this stupid stuff, man. It's like it's too much. So maybe this will eliminate some of these bowl games, and maybe they'll never come back. Hopefully.
Probably. I mean, listen, if there's a check to be had,
that's true.
If there's money to be made, I remember growing up, and it was nowhere near those many bowls. You just had like the Liberty Bowl, the Independence Bowl. You had the Alamo. You had your then you had the Sun Bowl. You had all these weird, but then you had the big ones, the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl. You had those staples that they still try to make relevant now. But, at the end of the day, when you're not sending the best of the Big Ten and the best of the Pac-12 to the bowl game, to that Rose Bowl, it does still lose its ambiance or the nostalgia that it had, back in the day. Like, to me, I used to be pumped when Ohio State made the Rose Bowl. Like, I used to be pumped.
Right. I'm gonna tell you something else that's changed too. Back then, when it was about conference pride more in the bowls, I would root for Michigan in the bowl games back then because I wanted because I wanted the Big Ten to show out in the bowl games. Now that doesn't matter so much. It's like whatever. You never rooted for Michigan, even against like an SEC team back in the day. I can admit that I used to root for Michigan sometimes.
Ever.
Especially if they were playing Alabama or Florida.
Never, ever, never.
Hey, I was all about the Big Ten, man. I wanted to see us show up against those other conferences because the SEC, for whatever reason, they think they're God's gift to football,
Now, listen,
and they really only have.
SEC believes a lot like we believe, but to be honest with you, unless the SEC is just Alabama, they ain't got nothing to talk about because LSU has been good. They have been, and they've won a few national championships in the last 10 years. But outside of them, Auburn, a couple years, and Alabama, the rest of that conference is trash, just like they try to say that the rest of the Big Ten is trash outside of Ohio State and maybe Wisconsin and maybe Michigan at times. But, you know, at the same, that's how all the conferences are. All of the conferences are full of teams that, you know, the majority of the teams in those conferences aren't very good.
No, and I think the ACC is the worst out of the major conferences by far.
Now they are. It used to be a time, you remember, when we were in the kids, the ACC used to be tough.
Yeah.
When we were in the late 80s, early 90s, and then Virginia Tech had the nerve to go there too.
Right.
So now you have Tech, you have Miami, you have Florida State. Man, hey, look, they used to go hard. They used to go hard.
Yeah, man. I don't know what happened to Florida State, man. I don't understand why they're so bad.
I don't know what happened to Miami either. Look, it's crazy
Miami
because
too.
a lot of the Miami kids that grow up down there actually have on Ohio State jerseys. So they're not going to Miami, which is crazy.
Well, I think now, like these kids now aren't, even though they want their families to come see them play and stuff like that, kind of want to stay close to home, but it's like, well, I think they kind of want to make a name for themselves outside of their areas. So that's why now, and really, I'll give John Cooper credit for that. John Cooper was one of the first Ohio State coaches that could go down to Florida and recruit like crazy in California.
Yep.
Right.
But
so
what he ended up doing in that is alienating a lot of Ohio players.
He did. And Tressel kind of reversed that. And then Urban Meyer kind of has he brought a balance where he still get the Ohio kids, where he's gonna get his fair share of out of state kids too.
He still got that Florida pipeline, so he can get he can get those guys. But I agree with your comment about what the kids are feeling. Like they do want to make a name for themselves outside of their states. What I think might be the bigger drive for them is, I think, so if you're a wide receiver, if you're a quarterback, or you're a running back, or whatever, you want to be on the biggest stage at all times to help your draft situation.
And you want to play as soon as possible too. You want to go to a school where you might have to sit behind somebody. So I know, like Utah recruited a lot of kids from Florida. Like their starting quarterback, 2 receivers were all from like South Florida.
I mean, you don't want to sit behind anybody, but I tell you what, if I'm at Georgia and I'm behind Nick Chubb, or I'm second string behind Sony Michel or something like that, at least you behind somebody that's worth you being behind. not just because this guy has been here for 3 or 4 years. You're actually behind a guy that's capable and that's worthy of having that position in front of you. But you also get the opportunity to be on an Alabama team. If I'm on Alabama's team, even if I only get in a couple of plays, I play for Alabama. So there's some cachet that comes with that. Playing for Ohio State, There's some cachet. I'm probably going to one of the big balls. I'm probably gonna be in the playoff setting. So you get the highest level, and you get the highest level of coaching. You get the highest level of facilities. You get the best of
But
the
you know
best.
what? Like on the flip side now, though, you're having guys who don't want to wait their turn anymore.
Well,
So
that's
you're
why you're
seeing
saying
like,
like Joe Burrow
you're
leaving.
seeing a huge amount of transfers now. Now they pretty much eliminated the rule where used to be when you transfer, you had to sit out a year. That's pretty much gone now.
Yeah,
So now you're
that's all.
seeing more. Yeah, so now you're seeing more player movement now with that. So you may even start to see guys go, to further and further away from home now, just so they can get a chance to play sooner.
I
Look
mean,
at
hell,
Georgia. Georgia had 5 running backs in that pipeline, man. They had Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Evander Holyfield's son. You had
yep,
DeAndre Swift, and it was
yep,
like one more.
yep.
And they all had to kind of like wait their turn, you know?
Yeah, but you know what? When it was their turn, when that year rolled around and it was them, each one of those cats showed up.
Right.
Each one of those cats played big. And that's what I mean. Like when you're good like that, all right, I'll redshirt this year, but I'm behind and I'm working out with a guy that's as good as me. If you
Right.
go to, let's say, to say those same kids say I'm gonna go to Georgia Southern. You listen, you're gonna play for 3 years, and you're gonna be the guy. If you Nick Chubb at Georgia Southern, I'm breaking every record down there. I'm the guy. I'm the best player on the football team. Period.
Right.
But you
You
don't
know
always
what?
you
A
don't always
classic
have the best.
example of that. An example of that was when Isaiah Crowell got suspended at Georgia, and he
Yep.
went to my alma mater, Alabama State University, and he showed
Yep.
out. Now, I
Yep.
don't think he got drafted, but I think he was a free agent. The Browns picked him up as a undrafted free agent, and until he tore up his knees, he was on the way to having a pretty decent NFL career.
Yeah, he was
And
gonna
they,
be.
if you remember, they tried to get Maurice Clarett to do that, but Maurice Clarett didn't have the foresight to do that because Doug Williams tried to get him to go to Grambling when he
Yeah.
got suspended by Ohio State. Because back then, even though you had the transfer rule that you had to sit out a year, going from a D1 to D2, it didn't. No, that's a Division I AA. That rule didn't apply. He could have played immediately. And I think
Well,
that may have saved Clarett's career if he would
the
have
thing
had
with
the.
Clarett didn't want to go to class. He didn't want to.
No.
His thing was he felt like he was the best running back in the country. I trying to look back at that time. I don't know that he was the best in the country. He was definitely one of the better players that we had seen, and the gifts and the talent was there for sure. Like he could have easily been one of the more gifted and one of the more talented.
And when you look back at it, man, how
Team.
Ohio State won that national championship?
Just guts.
Just guts, man, because we didn't have a quarterback, didn't have a lot of team speed, had a great defense.
The defense was so solid, but they weren't
great. The defense was solid, but
like one of those fly around the field type of defenses that we see anymore.
Right.
But we were just in the trenches type of guys.
And every game that season was on the edge, man. Like I remember at least 2 games we won in the fourth quarter, like on a 4th down play to win the game. And that was one of the most fun seasons, memorable seasons.
Period. We almost lost to Michigan. We almost lost to Michigan.
Did. We almost lost to Purdue.
We almost lost to Purdue.
We almost lost a lot of games that year, man.
That Michigan game was huge. Maurice Clarett had his arm hanging on by a thread.
Right.
And still ended up, getting us into the championship, getting us into the stand number 1 or whatever.
And that's kind of when the Ohio State hate started too.
The pass interference.
They never forgave us for winning that game. And it was the thing was it should have been more defensive holding, but it was a call nonetheless.
Yeah, it's not my fault because like I've always said, if the roles were reversed, if we had done the exact same play, whether it was pass interference or not, the referee threw the flag, and you still had to play it, and they still could have stopped it.
Overtime. Yeah.
They didn't stop it. We scored. They didn't. So it's not like I don't necessarily feel like we won because the referees helped us win. I feel like the referees gave us a chance. Miami could have stopped us because they were far superior than we were, and they didn't.
It was a legitimate call. It just was a late flag.
But
that's when all Ohio State hate starts, especially with
it already existed, but you're right. That's when it really came to the.
No, it got worse. It got worse after that.
It came out at that point. Like it was cats that might have been like, oh, I don't hate Ohio State. I just kind of don't like. And then they'll give you this little bull crap answer as to why they might not like them. After that game, it was over. I hate Ohio State. Oh, you're an Ohio State fan. When I'm in Vegas and I got on my Ohio State stuff.
Oh my God, yeah.
I get the worst looks. I get the worst looks out of anybody on the planet. I'm like, dude, I'm from Ohio. Yeah.
Now, part of that now is our fault because we are the most arrogant, self-entitled jerks when it comes to college football in the country. Yeah, we're bad, man.
No, I don't.
Yes,
think
we
so.
are.
I don't think so. And
we're pretty bad because you have to talk. Go ahead.
Here's why I don't think so. Number one, you can only talk but so much. I mean, if your team ain't winning a championship, the talk stops at a certain point. We haven't won we've only won 2 national championships in my lifetime anyway. So,
but we always think we should be in the playoffs no matter what. We lost to Purdue by like 50 points and still thought we should have been in the thing.
And listen, we've gone to a lot of championships while I've been alive, and we've gotten our asses handed to us. So it's only so arrogant you can be. The thing about Ohio State, one of the reasons that people hate us so much is that we travel well. Like we're going everywhere, and we're filling up all of y'all stadiums. We don't care. So we love our team, so we travel well. Why is it that you're an arrogant jerk because you love your squad? What makes us arrogant jerks? No, you know what makes us arrogant jerks? When we know y'all don't want us there and we actually win that game too. Now, guess what? What you got to say now? Scoreboard, punks. And that's sports in general, though, Sean. That's not just us being arrogant. Because you know who's arrogant?
We're bad. Oh.
Them stupid Alabama fans. Those are some arrogant.
They're bad too. Yeah, they are. They're bad
fans
too.
are awful. Awful.
Who?
Michigan fans, they're awful.
Yeah, they don't have any right to be though. They're more. You know what?
You can only be as arrogant as your team, as well as your team plays.
Michigan fans are more bougie. Like we're the academic school, and we hold ourselves to a certain standard, and blah blah blah. And Ohio State's more of the party school, and they kind of like and really Michigan, as much money as Michigan has. And their alumni, they have no reason to be bad. Now, basketball, they're doing pretty well. Basketball, nobody cares about college basketball in Michigan right now. It's all about football. But the football team, for whatever reason, they can't get it together.
They got a good coach.
I'm glad they can't get it together.
They have a good coach, and they've actually had some good ball players up there. Part of their issue is, while they have a good coach, he's a moron because he wants them to play a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
And he's forcing some of these players that aren't necessarily geared for that to play that way.
Exactly.
And it's kind of holding it back. Instead of opening up, he's trying to come back and be like Bo Schembechler Jr. and play that style of football. And
Harbaugh is more geared for the NFL. He's not a college coach.
No, but he's trying to be. He's
If,
trying to be like he's trying to cause that old school havoc that used to occur between. I mean, he shows up in the khaki pants, and now he's wearing the
right,
old man passes, and he's trying to bring all that nostalgia, which is cool. I actually do like it, but you have to have the players to do that, or you have to think more progressively uh, than what he's been doing, and he hasn't been doing a good job of.
right. If Michigan was smart, I think they will cut their losses, especially if you lose to Ohio State this year. He has to go. Now, he
Yeah,
stabilized the program.
he did
He
because they were going to be
stabilized the
trash.
program.
He was
And
going to be
now,
trash. That still was going to
right.
be trash.
And now you got to bring in a guy that's willing to adapt to how the game is played now, or at least a guy that's willing to design a scheme based on your personnel instead of trying to force your personnel into a scheme that they can't play.
I mean, listen, and that's still an attractive job. I mean, let me say this to put
It's a very attractive job.
we put this disclaimer out there. I'm not advocating for Harbaugh to lose his job, nor am I saying they need to fire him. I'm not saying any of
No,
that.
we need Harbaugh right now.
Listen, I needed all of those awful coaches that they've had. I was mad when all of them got fired. You know, bring Rich Rod back. Oh, please bring
Right,
Rich.
yeah, please bring him back. And Brady Hoke. Please,
You know, Brady Hoke, all them cats. Bring them all back. Let the new coach have all of those cats as assistant coaches. That's perfect. But what I'm saying and saying all of this stuff is that it's a different style of football that's being played in the Big Ten anymore. One of the best things that happened to us, as much as I hated to see Tressel go, that might have been the best thing for us because he was kind of a grinded out small ball guy that wasn't ready when we got to the bigger stages to play against
right.
that spread offense where these guys were running up and down the field, you know, 4-2, 4-3 speed type of offenses, almost more pro style offenses. We were legitimately running a college offense and just being run off the field. So him leaving and us ending up with Urban Meyer, who brought us back to this, or brought us forward to a wider open type of offense. And I think Ryan Day is kind of taking that and made it even better, if that's possible. Because I think even Herb was on some stuff sometime with the offense.
Yeah, he
like,
was, man. Yeah.
Why is he just running the ball with the quarterback all the time? But
it started
you know,
JT Barrett.
Yeah, like, but you know, I'm excited for where we've come from and for what we actually represent. I don't know how this is going to end in terms of the playoffs, and because we already got people mad. I just saw a dude on Facebook like, so Ohio State gonna show up halfway through the season and just act like they should be ranked in the top 5? Ohio State ain't showing up and doing nothing. Ohio State is just going to play football on Saturday. That's right. All Ohio State is doing. It doesn't have nothing to do with Ohio State, but because that hatred that exists, and this was coming from an Alabama fan, because that hatred exists, it's always going to come back on us. So, of course, I'm going to be a jackass when you talking junk to me, because you're the one that's sparking this stuff. I ain't said a word. I wasn't going to say about it because I was still wondering, like I just said, I wonder how that's all going to work. This dude want to put the hate out there. Why? Because he's an arrogant jerk of a football fan, and his team stinks. I don't care what nobody says. I hate Alabama. I don't hate him as much as Michigan, though. I have rooted for Alabama before. I've never rooted for Michigan.
Yeah, I don't hate Alabama. I hate like the SEC as a whole and their fans because they just act like there's no other conference.
I hate that. Yep, I agree. I hate
that. That's kind of what it is. You know, I live in Alabama. I went to college down there. So, and this was in the early 90s and mid 90s. They're not that throw it in your face type of fan, you know, but it's just more of that they're like, well, We get all the speed. We got the best players. Blah 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 blah, and therefore nobody can compete with us. And that's why I would root for Michigan in the bowl game. It was like, okay, especially if they were playing an SEC team. They're playing because I just wanted for them not to have that notion that we can't compete with them on that level.
Let those chips fall where they may. I'm not rooting for Michigan. I'm only rooting for Michigan. I'd only root for Michigan in a game that would benefit Ohio State.
And I root, you know what? And I root for the whole Big Ten during bowl season. I root for Minnesota, Illinois, whoever's in the bowl game. I'm rooting for them.
I don't care. I don't care if they win or not. I may not root against them per se, but I don't care if they win or
so
not.
You don't have any conference pride at all when it comes to the bowl games.
I do. I want Ohio State, who's a part of the Big Ten, to win.
That's not conference pride, man.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because I love any conference that Ohio State was a part of. That's my conference pride. That's it. And I'm not rooting for. I don't root for the other teams in the AFC North. I don't, man. No.
That's
if you ain't on my team,
man. That's a little
team,
different. That's different.
If you're not on my team, I may not root against
you. That's different.
I may not boo you every time I see you. However, I don't care if you win or not. I don't care. Who cares? You're Minnesota. I don't care if you win or not. Now, I remember, I will say this. I remember there's been players that I've liked. Like I liked Russell Wilson when I hated him when he played against us. But I liked him as a football player when he was at Wisconsin. So I rooted for him to do good in certain games. But I didn't give a damn if Wisconsin won. Sometimes I wanted Wisconsin to win just to finish ahead of Michigan. But that's it. That's all. I'm not one of those people who do the look, I told my niece when she was going to look at different colleges, her stepmom is from Detroit and she graduated from the University of Michigan. So she was, like, oh, when we get, Ryan to look at schools, I hope she looks at Michigan. I'm like, listen, I will be the worst uncle you've ever seen in your life. I'm going to root for my niece while hoping her team loses. I'm not wearing those colors. I'll wear a shirt that say her name and her number, but it'll be a black and white shirt. I'm not wearing
now let me ask you this. What if your son, becomes a football or basketball star? No, football. Let's keep it at football.
Or it don't matter. Either one. Yep. Go ahead.
And he gets drafted by the Steelers.
I'm gonna be pissed off. However, you getting drafted and picking where you go to school is two different things. And if you get drafted, like Ryan Shazier, my bad, Ryan Shazier and Cam and those guys that went to Ohio State. I love those guys. Look, I hate Dallas. I love doggone Zeke Elliott. So I'm gonna still love you. I'm not gonna root for your team.
Right.
I still love those guys. I still got a ton of love. But if my son was there, I'd be at a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers games in Pittsburgh. I would not stop wearing my Browns especially if they were playing the Browns. And if they weren't playing the Browns, I would probably just have on regular clothes and root for my son to play as good as he can play.
You know what? I'm the exact same way. Because I thought about that, man. I thought about this. Like, if I had a son, he got drafted by the Steelers, how would I handle that? It's one guy, I can't remember who the player is, but whoever it was, his son got drafted by a team that his dad hates. His dad flat out, when they were doing like the whole draft interview, he was like, look, I love my son, but I'm not rooting for that team. He was like, I'll root for you to do well.
And that's legit.
It's like, I am not rooting for your team.
That's legit. We do have a friend whose kid goes to at school up north, and he doesn't like it a lot. However, he does support his daughter. So I've seen it, and I get it. I understand it. Also, there's there's this part of it. Like, I'm not a big Duke. I hate Duke. But if my son was getting recruited by Duke, you think I'm gonna say, no,
Right.
Coach K, get your ass out of my face. Don't you bring your ass to my house? Like, no.
Right.
Heck no. Come on in, recruit my son. And if my son goes to Duke, I will be one of the more frustrated people on earth. However, my son's gonna go to Duke if that's where the scholarship money is at. You know what I mean? So you
that wouldn't bother me so much because that's not a rival. I don't like Duke either, but it's not a rival school
if
of
I don't
mine.
like,
So
and damn sure not a rival. I would be upset at rivalry. But again, Michigan is not a bad school. It is not a bad place to go to school.
Michigan is a great school, and as far as networking,
that's what I'm
graduate,
saying. Like,
all these Michigan alumni in high places.
Like, man,
that's a great school to go to.
It's crazy to say, no, you can't go there just because you hate Michigan or whatever.
They just have ugly urine stain uniforms.
I just don't like them. Same as like with Pittsburgh. I don't like Pittsburgh. But, it is what it is. You'll fix. Listen, when those direct deposit checks come, I don't give a damn who's signing.
Who signs? Right.
Shoot, pay me, man. Get my kid this money so he can pay for this house.
All right, man. So Ohio State's favored by 26. My thinking is Ohio State's going to win the game, but
that's my thinking.
I think they're going to come out like a little bit flat. I don't know if they're going to cover 26 with everything going on starting the end of October. It's a little tough order. They will be at home. I don't know how many fans they're going to have at all. I haven't seen what DeWine said about that. So it's going to be a different atmosphere for these
they'll be able to go. I just don't know how many. I think 20, maybe 12,000, I think.
If he's doing what, 10%?
Well, listen,
capacity
for them. I mean, he's talking about a stadium that seats over 100,000 people. You can't have. I think that they're going to do something like 12,000 or 15,000.
Right. Let me see if I can look up something really quickly here and see if they have anything about.
But just kind of throwing a little filler, just throwing in a little bit of filler noise. I think that us coming out flat against a team that's not as talented as we are, like Nebraska, it still could bode well for us offensively, because I don't think that Nebraska's equipped per se to slow us down. So I think we cover, actually. I think we'll come close to covering. How about I say that? I think we'll come close to. I think I wrote down a score in here, if I'm not mistaken. It was 48-7 last season when we played them. And I think I wrote down, hold on a second, bear with me, folks. Maybe I did. I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. But I was thinking something along the lines of 42 to like 21 type of game.
Yeah, I can see that. And as far as capacity, they're only allowing 656 guests and friends and family, and then including the total staff and everything, 1,600. So really, you just shouldn't allow anybody to come to the game at all if you're going to do that.
That's nobody, dog. It's like all of them can fit in one. In the first
here's
three
my
rows,
thing.
One section.
Here's my thing. I understand protocols that you have set in place for the coronavirus and whatnot. To me, just make it make sense. So if you're going to allow the Bengals and the Browns to have 12,000, and those stadiums are around about 65,000 seat capacity, why is it that you're only allowing Ohio State, that has a capacity of about 105,000, to have only 1,000 people in the stadium? That doesn't make sense to me. But that's a whole nother story. And I know why they're doing it, because they're like, well, we have to protect the kids or whatnot.
Yeah,
But I know that's why they're doing it.
it's
But
because of the key.
it's because of the kids. But that's another story for another day. So we're both going to Ohio State. And
Kids are getting ready to go to bed, so I'm getting
right,
interrupted right
it's all good. I said he got the Bobby Brown going on, huh?
now. Right.
He got the Bobby Brown. I want the Gumby round. And then he had a Gumby round, but he had the with the two parts on the side.
Yeah, he got the mohawk though. He got the
Okay.
whole little mohawk jumping on.
All right, but let's go ahead and move into our picks for next week. Well, matter of fact, we can review our picks from last week and see how we did.
Yeah. We got to do that.
So, yeah,
So we were both.
huh?
So we were both not very good last week.
No. So the first game we had was Washington against the New York Football Giants. I picked the Giants. The Giants won that game. Who did you pick? You picked Washington?
I picked
Picked the
Washington
football team? Okay.
football team, and yeah, they did not to get that game.
Nope. Next game was the Denver Broncos, New England Patriots. I picked the Patriots, and they got upset by Denver.
I picked the
I think
Patriots.
it was like 18-12. I picked the Patriots, so we both lost that game. And then the Packers and the Buccaneers, and Aaron Rodgers probably had one of the worst games of his career. Cost me a fantasy game. I already had Russell Wilson on bye. I figured, okay, I got Aaron Rodgers going, and that fool scored me a paltry 5 points. I was sick. I was literally sick. The Buccaneers handled the Packers handily. So, who did you pick?
I picked the Packers in that game.
Okay, and we lost that one too.
Yeah.
And we had the Cardinals and the Cowboys, and me foolishly thought the Red Rifle would show up and show out, and the Cowboys laid an egg. I mean, they
Look,
really laid an egg that game. I mean, it was awful.
I'm looking at my note from that game, and this is it says Andy Dalton. Enough said. and and that's why I picked the Cardinals.
So I lost that one, and then the last game was the Browns and Steelers. I picked Pittsburgh. You picked the Browns. So I was 5-4 before last week. So now I'm at 7. I'm 7-7.
I mean, yeah, 7-7, rather, yeah. And I'm at 6. I'm at 6-8.
Yeah, that figures. So I'm in the lead where I should be.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, coming up for next week, what games do you have on tap?
So next week, folks, our games are 5 picks. We have, drum roll, those same old 1-win Giants.
Okay.
Are going into the 1-win bowl versus the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. So, like we just mentioned, they got their first win. The Giants did last week. The Eagles played a really good game, which surprised me, against the Ravens. I thought they were going to get thrashed, but they actually showed up and played pretty decent. Kind of took it down to the last possession or so. However, their offensive line is terrible. Carson Wentz still doesn't look great to me. He looks very, again, I think he's hurt. I'm not sure that he's 100%, but it's hard to be 100%.
That wouldn't surprise me because that fool is always hurt. He's been hurt since he was at North Dakota State.
Yeah. The dude stay hurt, and it's easy to be hurt when you're getting hit. He's got like the most, or the second or third most hits in the NFL. it doesn't surprise me that he might still be injured or whatever. They also lost Miles Sanders, their running back, the young running back that they have.
Okay.
It's probably a few bright spots.
So who's their backup? Boston Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Say no more. I'm still going Philly.
I actually still think
Because the Giants just stink. They just flat out stink.
I got the Giants. You said the Giants as well. That's tomorrow night. That's a Thursday.
I'm going Philly. I'm not going to Giants. I'm going Philly.
Oh, you know what? And I wrote you in on the Eagles too. But yeah, that's a Thursday night game. So that game is tomorrow. And we just spoke, and we just spoke about them not caring, the NFL not caring about what product they put on Thursday. And we have the 1-5 Giants, the 1-4-1 Eagles. Awful product. However, usually the Thursday night games tend to be semi-decent. So we'll see if that happens tomorrow.
You know what though? But baseball, they're not playing tomorrow.
Yeah, they'll be off tomorrow anyway because they play.
That's normally under normal circumstances that would be their off day anyway.
Yeah.
So
going into the next game, we have the Steelers, the 5-0 Pittsburgh Steelers going into Nashville. Huh?
Going where?
Going into Nashville to play the 5-0 Titans.
Okay.
You know, we got just the opposite going into this game, the 5-0 versus 5-0. I think that the way that Derrick Henry looked last week will be a test for Pittsburgh's run defense. We'll see how well they can deal with not just a good run offense, but a monster at running back. Also, they're trying to deal with the loss of Devin Bush, who's out for the season, towards ACL against the Browns on Sunday. But on the flip side of that coin, the Titans lost Tyler Lewan with the same injury.
Okay.
Their offensive line probably won't be as effective, would be my guess. I'm probably going to go with the Steelers in this particular game. I just don't see where there's going to be a huge. I'll guarantee you this: I don't see Derrick Henry getting 212 yards this week.
No, but you know what? I'm going with Ryan Tannehill, Mike Vrabel, and the venerable Tennessee Titans. And
they venerable now? Really?
Venerable. But you know what though? I don't know why. I hate teams named after their state. Just call them the Nashville Titans. I can't stand it. I don't know why I don't like it. It's real petty. I just don't like it. It's like the Arizona. They're playing Phoenix. Call them the Phoenix Cardinals.
They used to be called the Phoenix Cardinals, didn't they? And then they moved to St. Louis.
Yeah, call the Vikings the Minneapolis Vikings. I can't stand team named the whole doggone state. It's like if the Browns are called the Ohio Browns, it would really I would hate it. They represent Cleveland, not the whole state of Ohio.
They were the Ohio Browns. I probably wouldn't like them
either. Yeah, exactly. They represent Cleveland, they don't represent Chillicothe, Ohio. You know what I'm saying? It's our team. You know, doggone Tennessee. No, call them the Nashville Titans. You know what's funny though too is that when they first moved to Tennessee, they had to play in Memphis.
Yeah.
And Memphis, the attendance was terrible because Memphis was like, well, this is not our team. They're going to Nashville next year when the new stadium is built. Screw them. Because they had them playing in the Liberty Bowl, and the attendance was terrible.
That move was too fast. The attendance they were at the old Liberty Bowl down there. Yeah. And, nobody wanted to see that. It was bad for Eddie and them because they were part of that first wave of guys.
It was the Tennessee Oilers at first too.
Yeah, they were the Tennessee Oilers. That was awful. All right, on to the next game. You said, we'll real quick. You said
Tennessee.
Tennessee. I don't trust Tannehill to keep playing the way he's playing, especially against
the venerable Tennessee Titans.
It's Steelers defense. So I'm gonna go with the Steelers defense, and I'm going with Pittsburgh. The next game is the Bears at 5-1 going into LA. to play against the Rams. They're 4-2.
Okay.
The Bears defense, of course, has been solid for, a pretty good period of time. Nothing's different.
The Bears are the worst 5-1 team on planet Earth.
The Bears are the worst 5-1 team in football.
They're sloppy.
Easily. They've won. But they've won the games that they needed to win. I can't.
That's true. I don't take that away from them, but I don't trust them.
Apples and oranges. It's like that one thing that they're not really all that great. However, they did win those games, so you got to give them the credit for winning those games. Nick Foles he's just one of those guys that figures out ways to win. He doesn't look awesome doing it.
No.
But he has the team, even though he didn't start the season as a quarterback, he does have them winning and playing winning football.
And so then the Rams are inconsistent. They completely destroyed their uniforms. Like, for those I don't know, I'm a uniform snob.
He's a snob.
And I hate what the Rams out there looking like San Jose State. I mean, they completely destroyed. They had a nice, clean, iconic uniform with the yellow horns on the helmet, and they still have the yellow horns, but they kind of made them. It looked. I don't know what it is. They did whatever they did. They messed it up.
Last year they went to the white horns.
That's fine. Matter of fact, they could have went back to the old Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones, fearsome, foursome, blue and white. They could have did that. But what they did now, they look like a Pop Warner League team, man. It's terrible.
I don't know that I agree. I don't agree with the. I'm not usually a big snob like Sean is, but what I don't agree with is the changing colors in the number. So like the top of it is like gold.
Yeah.
Bottom it's like white or whatever. Right. So it's listen, man. You can't be a professional football player playing in that stuff. I'll be mad.
I want to know who signs off on that, because nobody in the league thinks that those uniforms look good, but evidently their owner did. Whoever signed off on that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I'm going with Jared Goff and the Los Angeles Rams at SoFi Stadium over the Bears.
I'm going with the Rams as well. I just think that their defense will probably they're at home. I know the home field doesn't play as big as it would if there was people in the stands or a lot of people in the stands. However, I think them being at home, maybe as a play like the defense generally plays, and they'll cause some problems. And that's on Monday Night Football.
Oh, is it? Okay, Monday night game? Cool.
So we'll go to the next game. That's the Seahawks at 5-0, and they're playing against the aforementioned Arizona Cardinals at 4-2.
Seattle.
That's an easier pick. I think Seattle will win that game. They got too much popping right now. DK Metcalf, Russ Wilson, Carson's running the ball well. The defense hasn't been great, but they've been good enough to get wins. And I think they'll do enough to outlast Kyler Murray and those guys down there in Arizona.
I agree. And then we come down to the Browns and the Bengals.
I'll let you.
Browns, man.
Huh?
I think I'm going with my Browns. And the Browns are only favored by 3 points on the road. So Vegas has clearly lost confidence in the Browns, but that's okay. I mean, that happens. But I'm looking at something like I think we're going to put up some points, man. So I'm looking at like a 35-21 type game. I think we'll go ahead. I think it'll be close early. And I think it comes to a point in time when you're a prideful player and people are questioning what type of player you are. It's like put up or shut up time. So this is a tailor-made game for Baker Mayfield and that offense to get clicking. Every now and then you just need a spark to get you going. This is tailor-made. If you can't get it going this week, then there may not be hope for. I'm not saying that the season will be lost, but as far as Baker Mayfield being that guy, it might be a lost cause because this is like the Bengals in our division are like how the Detroit Tigers are for the Indians in the Central. When you having a problem, they're the perfect elixir. Yeah, it's just the perfect elixir for you to get better.
Yeah, you can't be losing to the Tigers down the stretch if you're the Indians.
Right. To me, so you got the Bengals on the road, and then you got the damn Raiders coming in next week. So this is a time where you can get these 2 wins and you go 6-2. It kind of puts the Pittsburgh debacle you know what I'm saying? It kind of heals that wound just a little bit, and it give you some momentum. I know you disagree, but 6-2 is 6-2, and I'm jumping the gun. I'm jumping going way ahead, but that's kind of just my thing.
That's what I was
going on, man. So
I'll be even talking about the Raiders already.
I know, right. But first things first, I think the Browns need to not screw what everybody else thinks about us. They need to prove to themselves that you are worthy to be up there with those upper echelon teams. We have the talent on paper to do so, at least offensively, and you have to show up. This is a tailor-made game for us to get healthy. So I'm going Browns. I'm looking at about 35-21.
I agree, and I said that earlier in the things that I was kind of concerned with in the game. I led into that with this game is absolutely the remedy because the Bengals aren't playing great football right now. So to have a team that doesn't play the run well, we need to get our run game back. To play a team that has a porous offensive line, that's good for our defense. Our defense didn't necessarily play great last week. So it's good for the aesthetics, the outside stuff that we'll see in the game. So it's really good for us to see this team come in. However, I do believe that we can't take this game lightly. I think it's a trap game, or that it
can't take any game lightly at this point. We haven't gotten to that point where we can take games lightly.
That doesn't mean that they won't take games lightly.
That's true. You're right.
And we've seen that. So
I follow these dudes on Instagram, and it's the most emotional team that I've ever seen in my life, which is not.
You just can't have the letdowns that can come when you think you're better because they think they're better. Why wouldn't you? Our record is 4-2. Their record is 1-4-1. We have a better offensive line. Again, on paper, we're the better team. So if you don't show up and play like you're better, it doesn't matter what all of that stuff says. So this is a classic trap game. We can get caught in the web that is the arrogance and believing that we are better than this team. We're so much better than this team, or we can't lose this team, instead of going out there and playing the way that we need to play. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. This is a game, this is the team where Baker had the biggest chip in the world on his shoulder going into that game. Let's see if he can manufacture whatever frustrations or whatever those things were, and see if he can just go out there and play a good, clean game and get his team a win. I see the Browns winning this game. I have them winning. Having said all of that, I have them winning, but I have them winning like 24-18.
Okay. A little bit closer.
Yeah, I see it a bit closer. I see our defense kind of pulling out some stuff. I see us getting at least, because Burrow has thrown a pick in the last 3 games, and he hasn't thrown any touchdowns. I don't anticipate that he's not going to throw any touchdowns in this game. However, I think we can force a fumble. I think maybe fumble, strip sack or something, as well as get that pick. I'm expecting at least 2 fumbles, or hoping to see at least two fumbles in the defense.
Now, America, I want to warn you in advance that last week when we lost to Pittsburgh, I was a little bit reserved because I kind of expected us to lose that game. If we lose to the damn Bengals this Sunday, I will be completely unhinged. And I said I wasn't going to get caught up and be all emotional this season, but this is a game that we're supposed to win and we need to win. And if we lose to the Bengals, and I got to hear all the national pundits and talking head, because they can't wait for the Browns to fail. They're all waiting for the Browns to fall flat on their face.
They're waiting on that shooter form.
And I normally don't care what the national media says, but I'm at the point where I'm tired of hearing it. Every time the Browns lose, trade Odell, Baker Mayfield stinks, City of Cleveland sucks, blah, 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 blah. And I can't take it anymore. If we lose this game to Cincinnati, I will lose it.
As irritated as y'all thought I was last week, if the Browns lose this game, we may not be able to do a show on Sunday if the Browns lose. Because Sean is gonna be so like I may have to go and actually physically do the show with Sean because it's a chance if the Browns lose this game, especially if they lose it in a way that only the Browns can.
Right.
I may not be able to get this guy.
Right, because there were times last year, like when we lost to Denver and that fourth string quarterback, and lost to Pittsburgh and Duck Dodgers, whatever his name. What's his name? Duck Hodges, whatever his name is.
Duck Hodges.
Yeah. After those games, I literally came in my room, turned the lights out, and laid in my bed in the dark for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, to the point where my family thought there was something wrong. And I had to close myself off from society to get myself together. And that's what it would be this Sunday if we lose this game. So, please.
I agree with another one of your sentiments that you said when you said if Baker Mayfield finds a way to muck this up, to look like he still hasn't figured out how to play football.
Right.
The moniker the versus moniker that I had out there, the awful. If we see the awful Baker Mayfield and not the mediocre Baker Mayfield, it's definitely going to be time to look at, even though we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to bring it up. It could be time to look at and into quarterbacks through free agency or through the draft or whatever. But it'll be apparent that Baker, for whatever reasons, whether it's all of the different coaches and all that stuff,
right?
For whatever reason, it will be clear that this guy can't.
He lost his mojo somewhere.
And then listen, he also could turn into a Ryan Tannehill at some point. 2 years later, Tannehill had to get the heck away from Miami. He had to get the heck away from Joe Philbin and those guys. And it wasn't that he can't throw the ball or couldn't do certain things. Sometimes you need just that fresh start.
Just in a dysfunctional environment. But you know what? I don't think the Browns are that dysfunctional organization anymore. You just have the lingering effect from the previous regime still in that building. It's, you know what I'm saying?
Problem that I think we have or have had is the lack of development. Like, there's a rarity. A guy like Nick Chubb is a rarity. Nick Chubb, I'm not going to say the Browns or their coaching staff didn't do any level of development with him. What I will say is Nick Chubb was Nick Chubb when he got here. So him playing the way that he plays, I don't know that the Browns developed all of that. This is a kid that was capable when he walked through the door.
From day one.
A guy like Baker is a great college quarterback. but you have to develop him into the NFL
And he's
quarterback.
shown flashes of being a good NFL quarterback. It's just somewhere, I don't know if it was Freddie Kitchens or whoever, he
It
just
was a
lost his confidence.
it
You
was
know?
a few things. I think that the things that he can't do, or the things that he doesn't like to do, he doesn't like to do. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I know what
So
you're saying.
it's like in order to do the job, you might have to do uh, more weightlifting. Well, I don't like weightlifting. So are you going to lift the weights or not? And not to say that that's what he needs to do. Just
I know what
using
you're
that
saying.
example,
Right.
like you sometimes to get better, you have to do some things that you don't like to do, but he only wants to do it, it seems anyway. He only wants to do it the way that he likes it, what feels comfortable for him. So coming out of the huddle, it's already in his brain where he's going to throw the ball, or where he wants to throw the ball.
And that comes from a lack of trust of your offensive line. That
it does.
when you're that happy feet, you don't trust your
But how do
line
you
to
not
block.
trust the guys that have these guys? Baker has not been on his back much this year. He ain't taking that many hits, and he hasn't been sacked that often.
No.
So this isn't, and I used to say this last year when everybody was all over the offensive line. Not that it wasn't a good line, but I kept saying a lot of this is still on Baker. Baker Mayfield holds on to the ball too long. Baker Mayfield sometimes doesn't want to get rid of the ball. Baker Mayfield is always trying to make a play. Sometimes you just have to say it's not going to happen.
The first drive Sunday is going to tell me a lot. We don't necessarily have to score that first drive, but I want to see how if he's dropping back, plants his foot, ball comes out, boom, he's confident. I think we'll be okay. But if he's dropping back and he's hesitant, unsure of himself, hold on the ball too long, it's like we're going to be.
That thing out of there, but he has the propensity to overthrow too, to go high a lot, like that.
Going high. Yeah. Now, normally when you're a quarterback and the ball is coming out high, that means that you're stressing, you're tensed up, you're gripping the ball too tight, and you're just letting it go. So that means that somewhere it's probably mostly mental. Now they always say that sports, like 90%, what is it? 10% of sports is 90% mental, something like that. It's something in his head where he's just not comfortable.
You can hit all your free throws in practice, but when that game comes in, guys can't hit the free throws. Braylon used to stand in front of the jug machine, just catching balls, and he get in the game and couldn't catch a cold, but naked in a snowstorm.
It's like he ate a bucket of fried chicken before the game, had greasy ass hands, and couldn't catch nothing.
Jumping for balls that he don't have to jump for. Like, what you jumping for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it is mental. It's how you prepare. This kid has been playing football his whole life, and he is a quarterback, and he can play quarterback, and he has the tools to be quarterback. The problem is getting those tools to advance on the NFL level on a regular basis.
It's like we were saying earlier, man. We need Bake Show this week. I don't need you being a humble Baker. I don't need you being a nice Baker Mayfield. I need you to be that kid when you came out of Oklahoma and you was like, I don't give a damn about anybody that's not wearing orange and brown. That's what.
Yeah, well, that shit didn't work well for him either.
That's what I need.
But
his rookie year it did. Now it didn't work well for Freddie Kitchens.
Well, again, it's reasons why that shit worked, and it's reasons why it didn't, and it's reasons why he was really good in his rookie season too. Because first of all, because he can play football. Secondly, there wasn't a lot of tape on him. Guys got tape on him last year.
That's true. Yeah, that's another aspect of it too. Now, one thing I don't buy into this whole thing where everybody's like, well, he's too short and he can't see over the line. I don't buy that at all because they don't say the same things about Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray.
It depends on the offensive line, and it depends on how they decided to put that. Like, I say that about Baker. but just being in general, it ain't just Baker. It is the smaller guy. You do have to have the avenues for them to throw through. So that's why I say he doesn't like stepping up, because him climbing up in the pocket sometimes gets him closer to the backs of those guys.
I got you. Yeah, that's what
you
you're
know
saying.
what I mean? So now if he steps all the way up or just takes that one extra step up, it's not like he's some of these taller kids, like Josh Allen, he's a tall kid. So him stepping up, he still is looking over the top of these guys. Baker is already out of his, he's off of his one route guy that he wanted to throw to anyway if he had to step up. Now he has to try to find people and watch these guys that might be coming around the edges. So the pocket is a problem for him. He would much rather be in the shotgun where he has the room to stand back and potentially hit that first read, because he ain't right behind those guys like that. But, again, we'll see how that all plays out, because this is the NFL and you're going to have to make those throws. And there are guys his size and smaller that make those throws on a regular basis, who makes those reads on a regular basis.
Right.
One of them is one of the best quarterbacks in terms of numbers that we've seen in a long time, Drew Brees. Drew Brees is only 6 foot tall. Baker is 6'2". So it's not
I don't think Baker's even 6'2". I think Baker is probably about 6. Even
I can only tell you what they say. So even if he's not, you still got guys.
I don't think Baker is 6'2" at all.
It don't matter if he is or not. You still got guys that are shorter than him that have to still make those throws, and they're capable of it. He's got to make those throws. He has to figure out a way to make those throws. I don't give a damn if he's a midget. He has to figure out a way to make those throws if you're going to line up at quarterback in the NFL. And especially if you're going to line up in Cleveland and expect me not to criticize you about it, sir. You don't give a damn what I think, and that's fine. But that ain't going to stop me from criticizing what I see. The product that you put out there. You got to put the work in, and you got to figure that out, Mr. Mayfield. And when you do, I'll be one of your biggest fans. Until then, I'm going to be one of your biggest critics.
Fair enough. All right. So we can go ahead and wrap up this week's edition with a midweek edition of Two Guys and a Mic. Just want to thank everyone that checks us out every week. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the feedback. We do see that you guys are starting to comment on our podcast on YouTube, and we appreciate that. So you can check us out on YouTube at Two Guys and a Mic 216. You can check out our Facebook page at Two Guys and a Mic 216. We're now on Instagram. We're still kind of like in the baby phases of the gram, but that's Two Guys and a Mic 216 as well. And also on Spotify and Anchor. So any views, any streams, any listens that we get is very much appreciated. And like we said before, as we move forward, we will be having, like some special guests on here from time to time, like friends of ours or family members of ours. I can give a little bit of different, insight. So once again, just want to say thank you to all the fans out there. And we hope you guys have a good rest of the week. And we will see you guys again on Sunday, and hopefully after a Browns victory. Because like I said, if we lose Sunday, it would be a very, very, very ugly episode.
It'll be a rough show. It'll be a rough show if we don't get that dub. But again, to echo what Sean just said, thank you, everybody. Appreciate the love. Have a good week, the rest of your week. Sean, you have a good rest of your week.
Yes, sir. You too.
And go Bucks. Go Browns.
Bucks, go Browns.
See y'all on Sunday evening. Peace.
All right. Peace out.